Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Cybersecurity. And this evening, my very special guest is Victoria Thomas. Victoria, would you please introduce yourself and say a few words?
Yes, so much. Thank you so much for allowing me to be with you this afternoon or this evening. My name is Victoria Thomas, and I'm honored to be here with you today. So, I am a cybersecurity awareness practitioner, and I've been in this space now for about a decade, across actually more than a decade, come to think of it, across working across multiple industries such as the financial services industry, manufacturing, CPG, energy, technology, and the likes. I've helped mitigate human risk for Fortune 100 companies that have a footprint in more than 100 countries with up to 250,000 users and translating into about 70 different languages across the globe. I have a marketing communications background, and I happened up on this field, and it's proven to be a great use of my talents and skill set. I also have won 3 awards in this space, actually 2 awards, and ended up being a finalist in a one to watch category for the Executive Women's Forum. I'm also a veteran who
Oh,
happens to have a change management background as well.
mhm.
And I already mentioned my marketing communications background, but I also have 2 certifications in cybersecurity awareness. So it's been a wonderful journey contributing to the greater good to take the bad guys down in this field. And I think that's enough about me. We can get started.
That is such a wonderful introduction. Now I remember that the train of thought that you had provided, because you were a member of the audience in one of the previous episodes. And I remember you were talking about that transitioning into the field and how the communications background and marketing background helped you, I think, provide the value. Like, what is the value that the security office or your CIO, CISOs are doing, right? And I think that was the biggest thing that you were able to provide, because many of these executive leaders don't know the language of that, and I think that you provided that.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So a lot of our leaders, especially in cybersecurity, they understand the technical side of
Mhm.
cybersecurity, but they don't often understand the human behaviors and the human side of security. And so, for me, I've been able to work really closely with a lot of leaders in the C-suite, not just cybersecurity leaders,
Mhm.
but I have figured out that we look a lot at changing behaviors from a user perspective, but
Mhm.
we really need to change the way that our cybersecurity leaders think about cybersecurity. And that's my job, is to really get them to open their eyes to that human factor, because you can have all the technology in the world.
Mhm.
And if a person comes in and does not know their role, or they don't understand the technologies that have been put in place, then it leaves the company at risk.
Mhm. Mhm. All right, so this is wonderful. So what are some of the key things that you have learned in your journey that you want everybody to that you want to share with everybody?
So I think it's great to continue down that path of talking about leaders,
Mhm.
and getting leaders to understand the human side, and how the human factor is much, much more. A lot of times people say, hey, the humans are the weakest link. We got to quit looking at people like they're the reasons why companies get into the issues that they have.
Mhm.
If we don't educate them, we can't expect them to know everything. We have to look at the employee as an opportunity for them to join forces with the cybersecurity team in order to help keep the company safe, and not looking at the people as the last resort. So I really like to stay on that,
Mhm.
and talk about ways to engage people, but not only ways to engage people, but ways to keep our leaders informed on what they need to do to keep their company safe.
Mhm, mhm. So it is interesting because that's sort of the way I had approached this whole field my entire career. And I wasn't even talking about the security or the protection side. I was mostly talking about your initial thought, which is how do we create value? How do we make every human being in the company more valuable through their proper usage of technology? How do we run the nuclear power plant or a healthcare organization or anything like that? Those are the things that I was concentrating on.
Sure. So I think that there are several steps that you need to take when you're going in to build up such a program, a human-centered program. I think there's a few steps that you need to take first
Okay.
in order not only to convince the CISO that the cybersecurity awareness program adds value, but also other leaders that the CISO is working alongside.
Mhm.
And so I'll give you just a couple of tips that have helped me in the past.
Okay.
And then we can have that conversation. We can continue to have that conversation.
Sure.
So I do believe that it all starts with, and I'll call this securing the C-suite,
Hmm.
how to garner executive support. So I do believe that there are three resources that any cybersecurity awareness program must have in order for it to be effective. And those three things are, I'll just put them into one bucket, which is resources. And those resources are not just money, it's not just the people, but it's also the time. So you need the time, you need the funding, you need the head count, and you need the time in order to be able to deliver on an effective program that's going to mitigate that human risk that you're looking for. So that's one way to understand if you're getting that buy-in from the CISO, is if they're giving you the resources that you need, is that sensible budget that I spoke about, the human capital, and then the time to get that done. And
Hmm.
then from there, you need to convince the CISO and understand what the CISO envisions for your particular program. And then once you get that, then you make that happen. And I always go in understanding, okay, what's the overall vision for the program, but what are some quick wins that I can make um, to really lean in, have the CISO lean in to the program.
Hmm.
And then from there, I'll say, it's that conversation with your leadership, working alongside your leadership to not only deliver on what the CISO is talking to you about, or what the CISO is talking to your managers or your management team about, but looking to really deliver on that long-term strategic roadmap that aligns with that big picture. And that's that one thing that you talked about. You talked about adding value. And for me, you can't just do something that adds value. You need to do something that adds value yet stands out. And what I found to be beneficial is that quick win that I talked about, and something that is a sustainable measure that will allow the program to continually improve. And then from there, once you've done that, then you understand that how the CISO is embracing what it is that you've delivered on. And then from there, the CISO is going to be your biggest advocate.
Mhm.
That has definitely worked for me in the past. It's delivering on that quick win, getting their support, saying, hey, this is what our long-term strategy
Mhm.
is going to be. This is how we're going to mitigate risk to the organization. And from there, they begin to be your biggest advocate.
Wow, that is fascinating. So, have you even thought about yourself being a CISO someday, or CIO someday?
I don't think of myself as a CISO. I do see myself in a higher ranking role within the cybersecurity awareness space, maybe a role that hasn't even been created yet. So I do see that. I do see myself trying to make a role, such of a role, exist at some point.
Because you literally created your own role. Because I remember when you were initially telling your story, it was you were creating this role for yourself, right?
Well, what actually happened was I was sitting inside of an organization that wanted to mature its cybersecurity awareness program. And they had someone who was more technical in the space.
Mhm.
And I said, hey, you need somebody who knows how to reach out to the broader organization, somebody who understands how to sell your business. And your business really is cybersecurity. And so, how to speak their speak, how not to be so technical, how to get them to buy into keeping the company safe. And so, I was able to sell my skill set because as a marketer, right, I can sell anything. It doesn't matter what it is. It's
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
understanding what the understanding what the subject is in order to be able to sell it. And for me, it's selling the idea of keeping the company safe. And there are steps behind doing that.
Neat. So, what about you've been in this space in 10 years now? To what extent do you use, say, social media and all that to kind of shape, say, the public image, or things like that for the companies that you're serving?
So for me, what I have been really um, proud of is the fact that I am able to go into a given organization, understand its communication channels, and be able to effectively communicate, leveraging the communication channels for a given audience. So it's not a one size fits all. It's not always a social media per se. If a company has social media internally, because for me, my focus is on the end user, which is the employee. And
Uh,
so leveraging the channels, the communications channels or methods that are available within the organization is the best way to get the message out. Whether that is on internal social media channels, whether it is on intranet pages, whether it is on print materials, digital materials, what have you. I do believe in having multi-channel programs or initiatives that meet all of the users where they are and how they consume information, how they retain information. It is up to me to understand the various targeted audiences within a given organization in order to reach them so that the messages resonate. And so I'll go a little further to say it's not just about informing employees of the role that they have, but it's also about getting employees to change their behavior. So we talked about that change management certification that I have. That really comes into play here with that marketing communications background, because at the end of the day, we want users to do something differently tomorrow than the behaviors that they're practicing today. That is how we keep companies safe. It's not just informing them and leveraging communications channels. It's really trying to move the needle on that individual behavioral change and then trying to shift the entire culture of the organization.
so that's another beautiful thing you mentioned, culture. So that's another area that you work on. One of my most favorite topics. Yes, because once you are able to shape and build that culture, that becomes long lasting and starts to continue to give you value, and the cost is lowered over time, right?
Absolutely. It's that long-term sustainment that you talk about when you do realize cultural change. I've been able to go into an organization that actually didn't even have a cybersecurity awareness program when I started. And just going in, building a team and saying, okay, we need to work with key business units in order to make sure that we are letting them know that this just isn't another company initiative. This is something that's going to keep the company out of the news. So we're going to need to partner with you to make sure that our employees understand the role that they play in protecting company information. So that means, HR partners, working really closely with them to make sure that training is in place
Mm.
for users to understand, what threats they need to be on the lookout for, and what threats they need to understand how to avoid falling victim to. And once you get the buy-in from these different various business units, such as human resources, or even working closely with physical security, because they have some of the same challenges that cybersecurity professionals have as well. And sometimes we even share some of the same issues. And so really working cross-functionally to help shift the culture and the mindsets, because at the end of the day, you want a security minded culture so that people understand that it's not just really about protecting the company. It's about keeping the bad guys out, even when they're at home. So it's not just about, we're going to help this company stay safe. We want to help people stay safe, because the behaviors that they exhibit at home will automatically transfer over to the workplace if we train and educate them appropriately.
Well, that is wonderful. I knew that we would have a fascinating conversation. So I'm so glad that you came and chatted with us, because I'm sure that the messages that you shared will resonate very much with our audience. So thank you very much, Victoria.
Thank you again for having me. I really appreciate it.